August 24, 1940. 6:15 p.m. 15,000 feet over Kent, England. Flight Lieutenant James "Ginger" Lacey's hands were steady on the control stick of his Supermarine Spitfire as he scanned the darkening sky. Behind him, the rest of 501 Squadron climbed toward an incoming raid, German bombers escorted by fighters, heading for London. The radio crackled, "Bandits, 12 o'clock high. Looks like 50 plus." Lacey looked up and felt his stomach tighten. The sky was full of them. Heinkel bombers in tight formation, surrounded by a swarm of Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters. At least 80 aircraft, maybe more. His squadron, 12 Spitfires, was about to engage a force 7 times their size. Most pilots would have felt fear. Lacey felt something else, opportunity. He'd been flying combat missions for 3 months. He'd scored 7 confirmed kills. He knew his Spitfire like he knew his own heartbeat. And in the fading light of that August evening, with German bombers threatening his country, James Lacey was about to accomplish something that seemed impossible. In the next 4 minutes, he would shoot down 5 German aircraft. 5 kills in 4 minutes, the fastest ace-in-a-day performance of the entire Battle of Britain. This is the story of how one Spitfire pilot, using perfect gunnery, ice-cold nerves, and tactics that would revolutionize fighter combat, achieved what most pilots couldn't do in an entire career. This is the story of how Ginger Lacey became a legend in 4 minutes. James Harry "Ginger" Lacey was born on February 1, 1917, in Wetherby, Yorkshire. The nickname "Ginger" came naturally: red hair, pale skin, and a temper to match when provoked. But in the cockpit, Lacey was ice-cold calm. He'd learned to fly in 1937 as part of the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve, working as a chemist by day and training as a pilot on weekends. When war came in September 1939, Lacey was called up for full-time service and assigned to 501 Squadron, flying Hurricanes initially, then converting to Spitfires in 1940. By August 1940, the Battle of Britain had been raging for 2 months. Hitler's Luftwaffe was attempting to destroy the RAF and achieve air superiority over England, a necessary precondition for a German invasion. Every day, German bombers and fighters crossed the Channel. Every day, RAF pilots scrambled to intercept them. And every day, young men on both sides died in the skies over southern England. Lacey had already proven himself as an exceptional pilot. 7 confirmed kills by late August put him among the squadron's top scorers. But he had a reputation for something else: extreme aggression combined with extraordinary gunnery skills. Most pilots fired from 200 to 300 yards, spraying bullets and hoping for hits. Lacey waited until he was inside 100 yards, sometimes as close as 50 yards, before firing short, precise bursts that rarely missed. His squadron mates thought he was crazy. His kill record proved he was right. Squadron leader Harry Hogan, Lacey's commanding officer, described him in his combat report. "Lacey possesses the finest deflection shooting skills I've ever witnessed. He has an instinctive understanding of relative motion and can calculate firing solutions in his head faster than most pilots can acquire a target. Combined with his willingness to close to knife fighting range, this makes him extraordinarily lethal." On August 24, 1940, those skills would be tested to their absolute limit. The Luftwaffe raid that evening consisted of approximately 80 aircraft, 50 Heinkel He-111 bombers escorted by 30 Messerschmitt Bf 109 fighters. Their target, oil storage facilities and docks in the Thames estuary. 501 Squadron scrambled from Gravesend at 6:10 p.m. with 12 Spitfires. They climbed through broken clouds toward the incoming raid, gaining altitude and speed. The tactical situation favored the Germans. They had superior numbers, adequate fighter escort, and held the altitude advantage. The bombers were at 18,000 feet with fighters stepped up to 20,000 feet. Standard RAF tactics called for formation attacks, with squadrons maintaining cohesion and attacking together. But Lacy had his own ideas about fighter tactics. As 501 Squadron closed with the German formation, Lacy spotted something: a group of 6 Bf-109 slightly separated from the main formation, providing flank cover for the bombers. On the radio, Lacy called to his flight commander, Blue 2 breaking off to engage fighters on the left flank. Before anyone could respond, Lacy rolled his Spitfire and dove toward the isolated German fighters. What happened next would become one of the most analyzed 4 minutes of aerial combat in history. Lacy approached the 6 Bf-109s from their 7 o'clock position, behind and to their left, slightly below. The perfect bounce position. The German pilots never saw him coming. Lacy selected the trailing 109, closed to 80 yards, and fired a 2-second burst. 8.303 caliber machine guns converged their fire on the Messerschmitt's engine and cockpit. The German fighter shuddered, belched black smoke, and rolled over into a steep dive, trailing flames. Kill 1. Time elapsed, 6 seconds. The other 5 German pilots scattered, breaking formation in response to the attack. This was exactly what Lacy wanted. In a turning dogfight, the Spitfire's superior maneuverability would give him the advantage. Lacy reversed his turn, pulling hard into a climbing spiral. G-forces pressed him into his seat. His vision narrowed at the edges, the first signs of G-induced loss of consciousness, but he eased back slightly on the stick, maintaining control. A second Bf-109 flashed across his nose. The pilot focused on something else, unaware of Lacy's position. Lacy didn't hesitate. He rolled inverted, pulled through, and came out directly behind the German fighter at a range of 60 yards. Another 2-second burst. The 109's canopy shattered. The aircraft rolled left and went down in a vertical dive. Kill 2. Time elapsed, 34 seconds. The remaining German fighters now knew they were under attack, but they couldn't find Lacy. He disappeared into the sun, using one of the oldest fighter tactics in existence. Lacy circled, gained altitude, and positioned himself between the German fighters and the setting sun. Any pilot looking his direction would be blinded by the glare. 2 Bf-109s flew in a loose formation, weaving gently, scanning for threats. Lacy dove on them from out of the sun, building speed to 380 miles per hour. At 100 yards, he fired at the wingman. A 3-second burst, longer than his previous shots because the deflection angle was difficult. Pieces flew off the Messerschmitt's wing. The aircraft snap-rolled and fell away. Kill 3. Time elapsed, 1 minute, 48 seconds. The lead German pilot saw his wingman go down and broke hard right, trying to turn into the attack. But Lacy had anticipated this. He'd already reversed his turn, pulling inside the German's radius. For 3 seconds, both aircraft turned at the edge of their performance envelopes. Lacy's vision tunneled. His arms ached from the control forces. But he was gaining, pulling his nose toward a firing solution. At 70 yards, he fired a 4-second burst, nearly half his remaining ammunition. The Messerschmitt's tail section disintegrated under the concentrated fire. The aircraft went into a flat spin and fell toward the ground. Kill 4. Time elapsed, 2 minutes, 41 seconds. Lacy's Spitfire now had approximately 400 rounds remaining, about 5 seconds of firing time. Most pilots would have broken off and returned to base. Lacy looked around for more targets. Below him, the main German bomber formation continued toward London, still escorted by most of the fighter screen. But one Heinkel He-111 had fallen behind, struggling with engine problems, separated from the formation by several hundred yards. Lacy dove toward it. The Heinkel's gunners saw him coming and opened fire. Tracers arced toward Lacy's Spitfire. He jinked left, then right, then rolled inverted and pulled through, violent maneuvers designed to spoil the gunner's aim while closing the distance. At 150 yards, he fired a long burst at the Heinkel's right engine. The engine caught fire. The bomber began losing altitude, but the gunners kept firing. Lacy broke left, climbed, and came in for a second pass. This time he aimed for the cockpit and left engine simultaneously. His remaining ammunition poured into the bomber's nose section. The Heinkel's left engine exploded. The aircraft's nose dropped. The pilot had no choice but to crash land in a field below. Kill 5. Time elapsed, 3 minutes, 52 seconds. Lacy's guns clicked empty. He'd expended all 2,660 rounds of ammunition. 5 German aircraft destroyed in 4 minutes. He turned for home, his hands finally beginning to shake as adrenaline faded. When Lacy landed at Gravesend at 6:47 p.m., his aircraft was immediately surrounded by ground crew. The armorer counted the empty ammunition boxes and looked at Lacy with disbelief. "You shot it all, sir." "All of it?" Lacy climbed out of the cockpit, legs unsteady, and lit a cigarette. Seemed like a target-rich environment. The combat report filed that evening documented 5 confirmed kills, verified by ground observers who'd watched the German aircraft crash. The report noted that the entire engagement lasted approximately 4 minutes, from Lacy's initial attack at 6:16 p.m. to his final kill at 6:19 and 52 seconds p.m. 5 victories in 4 minutes represented the fastest ace in a day performance of the entire Battle of Britain. Most pilots who achieved 5 kills in a single day did so over hours of combat, landing to rearm and refuel between engagements. Lacy had done it in one continuous action, using one load of ammunition, without ever breaking contact with the enemy. The tactical lessons from Lacy's engagement were studied extensively. Aggressive attack from advantageous position, Lacy didn't wait for permission or coordination. He saw an opportunity and took it. Close-range gunnery, by waiting until 50 to 100 yards before firing, Lacy ensured nearly every burst scored damaging hits. Energy management, Lacy maintained speed and altitude advantage throughout, converting altitude to speed when needed and speed back to altitude when the situation required it. Target selection, Lacy chose isolated or separated targets, avoiding situations where he'd be outnumbered with no escape. Ammunition discipline, despite the intensity of combat, Lacy fired controlled bursts rather than long sprays, making every round count. These principles became foundational doctrine for RAF fighter pilots and influenced air combat tactics for generations. James Ginger Lacy survived the Battle of Britain and continued flying combat missions throughout the war. His final tally, 28 confirmed kills, making him one of the RAF's top-scoring aces. He flew in Burma, where he added to his score against Japanese aircraft. He survived being shot down multiple times, including once where he evaded capture by Japanese forces and walked 100 miles through jungle to safety. After the war, Lacy struggled with what we now recognize as PTSD. The young man who'd been so calm under fire found peacetime more difficult to navigate. He worked various jobs, never quite settling, haunted by memories of the men he'd killed and the friends he'd lost. In a 1978 interview, Lacy reflected on his 4-minute engagement. People call it